We're live.
Hi.
Hello, and welcome. Welcome to all that stopped what they were doing and joined us. And also to all, thank you, all those that are multitasking at this moment while they watch us.
Right.
We are here staying in our lane, sharing our knowledge from our personal experiences as well as our guests' personal experiences. I am ThatKimberly.
And it's Deb. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
using jazz fingers every time I announce myself now. Yeah. So welcome and thank you everyone for hopping on and having a little lunch chat with us. Today
Yes.
we have our friend Christi Wedel back with
Wedel.
us. I'm really practicing to make sure I say her name correct.
Yes.
So
We might even sing it a couple times.
yes, Wedel.
Wedel.
We're going to continue our conversation about empathy at work, just
Yes.
empathy and, just in general. So we're excited to have her back today.
Yes. Do a little situational exercises, maybe. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But before we jump into that, we're back online on the Facebook, as my mom calls it, LinkedIn and YouTube. So wherever you're watching us from, make sure if you have a question, leave it in the comments. We definitely, I'm going to be the backstage producer putting those up so we can get those answered. And if you feel the information that we share with you can help someone, please share that with them. And if you watch on the replay, let us know where you're watching from and make sure you put in hashtag replay. What else? Maybe while you're there, subscribe or follow so you know next time when we go live. It's every Tuesday, just in case you didn't know, right?
11:30.
Okay, so without further ado,
Hi, Miss Wedel. Wedel, how are you? Thanks so much for hopping on again this week.
Yes, it is definitely my pleasure. You ladies had me cracking up backstage. I was like, oh my goodness. So we now have jazz hands and Wedel.
You stick around for a full day, you never know what you're going to end up with. So
I love it. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, we're appreciative of your time. So thank you so much. So we'll go ahead and just jump right into it. We're going to continue the conversation from last week and talk a little bit more about empathy in the workplace. And I know you had some you had some things you wanted to start with. So I'm going to let you go with it.
Yeah, well, there was a couple of different things I was thinking of when we talked about continuing this conversation. And I was telling you guys earlier that this is a little off script, but I was reading through an article on Forbes.com and they were talking about, well, the title, first of all, is what really got my attention. And it was Empathy as a Superpower. And I was like, wow, this is Forbes magazine, like Forbes.com. So, it's a pretty reputable place to find information. And it was, I definitely would suggest that our audience check it out because it was really informative. But for today, I was hoping that I could get some of you guys to post some comments as we go along and, start with a question for you guys, the audience. Have you ever experienced true empathy in your workplace? Have you ever been given some grace and empathy in a difficult situation? And if so, pop that down into the comments there.
Mm-hmm. I know I have. So, I've experienced empathy and non-empathy.
Right. Yes. Well, and I think that, right, like the past 2 years have made some of us go one direction or the other. And so the way I see it is our on-site teams are, well, first of all, they're my heroes because they were and are the front line and the essential workers in this still ongoing pandemic. It's not over yet.
Absolutely.
But, it goes without saying that our teams need to be loved on at this point. And I think that it is easy for some of us sometimes, and I'm speaking for myself, to look at reports and look at things and go, gosh, why are they not leasing? Oh my gosh, I've got to jump on them. They have got to get with it. And then I am not being empathetic at all, right? Like, I'm not realizing that they are sacrificing, they've got anxiety just for being there around people all day long during the pandemic. And then also they're thinking about their family at home on top of the added stress of residents being just angry and anxious and upset, even more so than they were before. Right. And so we have to learn, in my opinion, we have to learn how to be empathetic, to lead with that, and then also to hold people accountable.
Right. I completely agree. I mean, you're on the management side and I'm on the supplier partner side. So, everyone's getting it from all angles. You've got your reps out there that can't produce air conditioning equipment because it's not available because there's a shortage or there was a pain, and so they're often the bearer of bad news when they're that client facing representative. And so I think it's, when it's super important to just pause for a moment and remember that that person that you're talking to sometimes is they're just bringing you the information, and they just get to be the bearer of bad news sometimes. So, and it's nothing that's in their control that they can do anything about. So, and there's so much happening in our world right now. And it's so important to pause and to learn how to talk to people differently. I saw a coach on TikTok. He talked about the employee that was dragging in late and, kind of like not doing so hot at work. But instead of coming at him with, your numbers are down and you're late for work and, all the things, like he just asked an open-ended question of like, are you okay? What's going on?
Right.
And that was the game changer. That turned everything around. It put him in a position to help that person because that's what he needed at that time, because there were life circumstances going on. So just, it's how you approach a situation is super important. I know on our notes, we have a section about being tough, but also having empathy. So I know that's a interesting conversation. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. So it goes without saying that to be able to be in a leadership role and be effective, in my opinion, for your teams, you have to first be empathetic with yourself. And I shared this with you guys off stage. And this is actually mentioned in that article, and I think it's genius, right? Like, if I am, and this kind of goes to what we were talking about last week, right? Like, if I don't have my mindset right before I go in to lead my teams, I'm probably not going to lead them the best way possible, right? And so the same is true for, am I being empathetic with myself? Am I mindset, right? Like, am I telling myself you're not good enough? You don't do this, or you do this too much? Am I beating myself up? Because if I'm beating myself up, how am I going to exude empathy to the person who's in front of me, or beside me that I am employed to lead, right? And so I think leading with heart, I believe that's even a book, if I recall correctly, is the first step. And it starts with you. It starts with me. We have to give ourselves some grace and be empathetic toward ourselves so that we can then exude that to the people around us. And you nailed it when you said, this coach saying, hey, are you okay? Thankfully, the narrative is changing slightly regarding mental health, and that's a whole different topic for a different day. But is it? Because I believe that if we aren't in the right mindset, if we don't have things right in our mind, it's going to be very difficult to lead others in the way that we need to, in the way that aligns with our company values and our core values as a company. Like, I can't lead people in that direction if I am kicking my own self all day, every day, right?
Yeah,
It's
that
not
really
going to come
hit.
out right.
Yeah,
Right,
that
right.
really hit me, because I'm that person that will put my own needs on the back burner and
Yes.
just keep trucking forward, and
Mhm.
doing, and I am so guilty of that. I mean, and that's
Yeah.
like, give yourself empathy, give yourself grace, and then that goes into self-care in general and mental health. So
Yeah.
it's just like the conversation I have with my 21-year-old son, who doesn't like a clean room. He's a newish adult, and so
Mhm.
I'm still trying to tell him that how important it is to tidy up. And
Mhm.
when your space is nice and clean around you, you feel better, you feel more productive. When you have chaos and junk around you,
Mhm.
that it pulls you down. So it's
Absolutely.
important to like take the time to like do those things for yourself so that you feel better about doing life on a daily basis. So things like that are super important. And then of course, I think everyone should start out in the morning with something Zen like. And I think more and more people are. Whether it's your meditation, your morning
Mhm.
prayer, your whatever, your walk
Right.
in nature, like it's so important to set your day right.
Mhm.
um and because it's a game changer. Every time
It
I do
is.
take the time to do that, my days are a lot more peaceful. And when I just get out of the bed and get on social media first, or
Yeah.
or just jump out of the bed and like run straight up, because it's really easy when you work from home to just hit the computer like before
Mhm.
you probably should. So,
Yes.
like creating some good healthy boundaries for yourself. People need to do more of that, especially since the
Yes.
the whole work game has changed for everyone, and we have so many more remote people. So,
Mhm. Yes, I remember when I worked remotely for years, and Deb, I don't want to get too off topic, but I would jump up and may or may not be wearing yoga pants all day, but I would be from 7 a.m. until I wouldn't even take a lunch, and then it's all of a sudden it's 7 p.m. and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I didn't do any kind of
mhm,
getting myself focused for the day. And oh my gosh, it was yeah, you're right though.
right.
Taking the time to do that in the morning, it absolutely is a game changer. And for those people watching that go, oh great, they just totally don't get it, I get it. I totally get it. If you don't have time in the morning to wake up and do a 15-minute get your mind right, Zen prayer, whatever it is for you, do it on your way into work. If you have any
Mhm,
kind of a commute at all, I find myself just turning the radio off and just having a moment to
right.
myself before the day starts. So, but you got to make time to do that so that you can be in the right headspace for your team members, for sure.
Mhm. We had a good question here from
Oh,
Brandon. What do you do when an employee starts taking advantage of your empathy?
ooh, you want me to take a stab at that first?
Mhm.
So, so that is a great question, Brandon. Thank you for asking that. I think the first thing is to get to the root of it, right? Like, just because we're talking about having empathy for your employees, your team members, does not mean we don't hold them accountable. As a matter of fact, we hold them accountable because we are being empathetic toward them, if that makes sense. So
Yes.
you lead with empathy, like Deb was mentioning about the coach, right? You lead in with, "Hey, are you okay? Is everything all right?" And to show that you really care. And then if that person starts to take advantage of you, then then you have those conversations with them. And I have found if I'm empathetic first and I show that I care, and not just when things go wrong, but if I'm showing that I care about this person and my team members on a daily basis, by responding to them, by collaborating with them, inviting them into conversations, if they feel connected, they're less apt to take advantage of you, if that makes sense, because you're not really going to give them room for that. You're giving them room to grow. You're asking them to collaborate and be a part of. And so usually those people who feel a part of will not try and take advantage of you.
Right. I totally agree with that. And I mean, and if you're genuinely like empathetic to that employee, and you have coached and you have worked with them and, you know, you have really exhausted, I mean, you can still get to that point where you've exhausted all of your options, you know, and it's just it's not going to work.
Right.
And I mean, it's, you know, sad, but it's true. But, you know, if you have your empathy, you know, working for you, at the end of the day, you know, if it does come to something like that, you know, you did everything that you could do. And you exhausted all of your options and you really tried to help that person in the most genuine way. And, you know, they didn't accept it or they couldn't for some reason. There's lots of reasons, but you can still be empathetic and you can still be hard, you know, tough. You're always going to have someone that is maybe going to take advantage of you in the world. I mean, that's just the way it is. But setting up your own boundaries, I think, around that is key.
It absolutely is. And, you know, if that employee that is, well, no, let me back up a second. If your team members see that you are leading with heart and you're empathetic, the good ones, because listen, we're going to make some bad hires. Dang it. We just do, right? People look good on paper. Things just don't work out, right? But the people around you, your team members that are devoted, loyal, strong, compassionate, empathetic like yourself, they need to see that you are tough. And you, in other words, you're not going to allow people to walk all over you or take advantage of you. You see, there's this misconception, and we talked about this a little bit last week, of being empathetic and being walked over, right? So being empathetic just simply shows compassion and that you understand and you put yourself in other people's shoes. But it absolutely does not mean that we are a doormat and we allow our team members, the not so good ones, to run over us.
Right.
And like I said, the best thing for your really good team members is to see you being tough, because, you know, it's definitely not fair, right? Like if one person comes in and just wants to trample all over everyone and you're being empathetic and most of your team members are, and they're following you and your leadership style, and this one over here is not, they need to actually to have more respect for you. They need to see you being tough on that one, if that makes sense.
Right. And it's so interesting, like just our industry. I think so many of the roles in our industry need empathy, require empathy more now than ever. Like you've got your on-site people that are the frontline workers of our industry. You know, you've got your corporate people that are being, you know, hounded by owners that, you know, want to know why, you know, occupancies were so low in an area that was, you know, very much affected by a pandemic. You know, there's just so much happening, you know, all around from every perspective. And it's more important now than I think ever that we get on this wagon and we bring more empathy training into multifamily. Just because, you know, I mean, people need it, and we need it for mental health, and we need it for growth.
Absolutely.
So what kind of, have you seen or come across or utilized any like new tools out there or strategies for, you know, empathy in the workplace? Do you know, I don't know, I'm just curious.
Well, as I say, I think my headline on LinkedIn says like book nerd or something like that. But I am like, I do like podcasts. Hello. But I also take in a lot of content regarding empathy. And, you know, I started taking in the content just as a curiosity thing. I was like following Gary Vaynerchuk, Kimberly backstage is probably like, that's not how you say his name. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation. But him and Simon Sinek and a few others that are sort of the leaders or the pioneers of this content, if you will. And I found myself really drawn to it. And I thought, gosh, there's so many industries, that hospitality being one of them, that are so forward thinking in this area. So I wonder why we are not, as an industry, we're not there yet. And I am on a mission to push that if possible. I think that it strengthens it strengthens you as a company. It strengthens
Mhm.
you as a leader, as a human being. You mentioned your son earlier. I use this type of stuff on my son too, because, I mean, he's 9, right? And he has special
Mhm.
needs, and he comes home from school and it's like, he just, he's losing it. And I'm like, part of me wants to be like, okay, so like, I'm a single mom. I just worked all these hours and
Mhm.
sat through traffic, and oh my goodness. And I have to take a step back and be like, this is his safe space. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like,
Right,
he's
right.
held this in all day long. And so I have to
Mhm.
be empathetic toward him. And
Right.
I think that, like I said, if you find this topic interesting at all, I would suggest, following those people on
Mhm.
social media, and or catching an audio book or a podcast,
Right.
to
Yeah.
soak it all in.
Cool. We have another question from Miss Laura Lestis.
All
What if
right.
you don't feel that the empathy is genuine, or if you are too vulnerable, it will be used against you?
So it sounds like a two-part question. Great
Mhm.
question, Laura. So let's take the first part first. What if
Mhm.
you don't feel that the empathy is genuine? So we have a really good blank detector in this industry for the most part.
Mhm.
See, I didn't say it. So in other words, we gravitate. In my opinion, a lot of us have gravitated to multifamily because we have a certain type of personality, right? And so with that, I think we have a detector in there. It's just
Mhm.
inherent in all of us, and so it is really difficult to take in someone's, um, I call it failed empathy, because
Mhm.
it stinks, and it just doesn't smell good, and it doesn't sit right, and we know that. So here's the thing, we can't change other people's actions or the way they behave. The only thing I can change is me, Laura. Like,
Mhm.
I can be more empathetic. I can't change the way someone's disgenuine. Is that a word? Probably not. I just made it
Works.
a word.
It works.
If someone's not being genuine toward me with their empathy, that kind of stinks. But you know what? That's not on me, right? Like, I'm only responsible for my actions and my behaviors, right? Um, and so then the second part of your question, I think it goes with my first reaction when I started following this on social media was like, that is not going to work in our industry. That makes us all look weak. There's no way anybody wants to adopt this. And the more I took it in, Laura, the more I thought, wait a minute, this is absolutely relevant to our industry. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, and you're exactly right. I mean, not everyone will be as empathetic as you are. And the important thing is to work on yourself, and like attracts like. So,
Right.
just keep doing you, keep working on yourself. But yeah, it is unfortunate when people are not genuine or they use your vulnerabilities against you. And I mean, unfortunately, that's out there.
Yeah.
But I do think you've got to go with your gut. And if your gut's telling you someone's not genuine, I mean, it's fair. I
Yeah.
mean, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've all been in those situations. So just make the resolution that, hey, that's just not what I'm going to be ever. That, again, the
Right.
only person you can change is you.
There was another question that, a little bit, we discussed it earlier, but some examples to elevate empathy and leadership in a company. And I am so open for anyone out there to let us know what you've heard of or what you're experiencing with your company if it's doing something awesome. But I do know a management company that has an on-staff therapist. and that's available for employees. And, you know, I also know another company that has an in-house masseuse that takes, like does shoulder massages in their corporate office. Like, you know, there are some really cool things out there that can, you know, make a workplace, I think, more positive experience. You know, I mean, the massage thing is debatable. I just want a massage person in my office every day, but you know, we'll work on that for the future. But, you know, I mean, just having a resource like a therapist that's available for your team members, I think is amazing. And there's so many different resources out there in the HR world too, that I think that the companies really need to latch onto and promote heavily, you know, alongside with just basic like empathy in the workplace. So,
yeah. I agree 100%. And I think, you know, no offense to anyone that has this, but I think, you know, listen, ping pong tables and shuffleboard and, you know, big fancy coffee machines, they are great. They are wonderful. Don't get me wrong. Facebook and Google don't come after me. But I think that now more than ever, Deb, you just nailed it. I think that offering, and it doesn't have to cost money. It doesn't have to be extra, you know, this is just something, maybe we upload resources to the intranet that are links to videos, are links to, you know, I don't know, but
or along with all of those automated reports that you're getting spit out into your inbox every day, like maybe some positive motivation coming out into your inbox, you know,
right?
In your company.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to go about that and make it fun and you know, make it helpful for folks. So, well, I really appreciate you. We're running out of time, but thank you again for sharing.
My pleasure.
Do you want to tell everyone how they can reach out to you?
Yes. Hi. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I don't know why I just said hi. We've been talking for 30 minutes. Just throwing that out there for you. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to connect with you.
Yes. And then if you are watching this, thank you so much. If you're going to watch the replay, please share it and hashtag replay on that. But we really appreciate everyone joining us today and asking all the questions. Yes. We're always open for questions, comments, and ideas all day, every day.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Brandon. Thank you, DB. Thank you, and all the others. I know some of Christi's friends that we can't see the comments coming through. We're commenting on the LinkedIn. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And next Tuesday, 11:30, Kelly Scott, correct?
Woo, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Kelly Scott, our fearless, reckless Kelly will be joining us on Tuesday for another great chat.
Yes, another industry live. That will be fun. We're excited. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye.